Donald Trump has officially declared the end of the war in the Gaza Strip between Israel and Hamas. United States President Donald Trump, who arrived in Israel today on an official visit, stated in the Knesset that the war in Gaza is officially over. The head of the White House also insists that Hamas will abide by the agreement, fully disarm and hand over power to international forces. At the same time, as of this moment, Hamas militants have released all Israeli hostages and Trump has already met with their families. Donald Trump's key phrase in the Knesset sounded like this: "This is the end of the era of terror and death." In the coming hours, Donald Trump is heading to Egypt for an international summit, where the end of the war in Gaza will be announced with the support of local Arab countries. But not only Arab countries are invited to the summit. The list for this summit and even the meeting agenda are already known. But at the last moment it became known that Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, refused to go to this summit. A Palestinian administration representative was still invited to the summit, despite earlier statements they would not attend. Why is that? We'll discuss this in the episode and cover the latest news on the end of the Gaza Strip war. My name is Alexei Pechi. It's October 13th. Let's review everything step by step. But before we begin, I want to remind you that this YouTube channel releases several news analysis segments every day so that you can stay up to date with absolutely all the news. That's why I recommend subscribing to this channel. Please give it a like and write any detailed comment under this video. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. It says, support Alexei Pechi's channel. Choose any convenient option. I would be grateful for your support. So today, October 13th, Donald Trump gave a victory speech in the Israeli Knesset. In Israel, Trump is largely seen as a peacemaker. For example, Tel Aviv's mayor has already said he will name a stadium after Donald Trump. Well, and the Speaker of the Knesset announced that Israel will nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2026, and he will encourage other leaders to take the same step. So, answering journalists in the Knesset building, the United States President said yes when asked if the war in the Gaza Strip was over. Quote, "This is a great day, this is a completely new beginning, and I think nothing like this has ever happened before." When asked what would happen to Hamas if the group did not observe the ceasefire, he replied, "They will observe it." Although I will talk about this in one of the next episodes. But there are all the signs that right now Hamas is eliminating all remaining opposing forces in Gaza that could compete with them for power. Yes, although Israel is pulling out, Hamas has begun a new war in Gaza with other local groups and clans. We'll discuss that in another episode. Overall, Donald Trump's Knesset speech was a true victory speech. The speech of the United States President in the Israeli parliament was greeted and concluded with standing ovations. And here I'll share with you selected quotes from Donald Trump, the contact of fire in Gaza. He says this isn't just the end of the war, but also the end of an era of terror and death, and the start of an era of faith, hope, and God. Next, about his chief negotiator Steve Witkoff, Trump says the following: he has outstanding negotiation skills. He's just a great person. Everyone loves him. Well, although later Trump criticized Witkoff for his negotiations with Putin, stating that Witkoff didn't know anything about Russia or politics in general. And that's why for some reason he spent 5 hours talking about something with Putin, even though, according to Trump, there wasn't even 15 minutes worth of things to discuss. Trump also thanked United States Secretary of State Mark Rubio and United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Then Trump started talking about America's victories, quote, "As you know, we won World War I, World War II, and all the later wars. We won them all. My nature is to end wars, and if the United States does enter a war, it will win it like never before. I don't like wars. I remember how Hillary Clinton, said at the debates, look at him, he'll go to war with everyone. He has a personality obsessed with war. But my personality is to end wars." And then I remembered again about ending the war in the Gaza Strip. Quote, "So did you, that is Israel, win? Now it's time to turn victories on the battlefield over terrorists into the highest reward. Peace and prosperity throughout the entire Middle East. It's obvious that the productive and responsible nations of the region should no longer be enemies, but should be partners and ultimately friends. That's how it should be. You must unite to fight chaos." And then a couple more words about Israel. Quote, "The world loves Israel again. This little patch of land is so small. Seeing this tiny dot on the map and realizing its achievements is incredible." Then Trump joked about Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. And first he praised the opposition leader, Yair Lapid. He said that he's a good man. Well, and then smiling, he turned to Netanyahu and said, "Now you can be a little kinder, Bibi, since you're not fighting anymore. More." Not him. Are you in touch? Le de l'hôtel Sanguitelli? Camp joining one-day international loader if you trophies. After Hamas released 13 more hostages, Israel is preparing to release more than 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, with more than 100 of them to be expelled from Israel and Palestine immediately after their release. Because they are accused of serious terrorist attacks, President Donald Trump's peace plan to end the conflict in the Gaza Strip presented last week includes 20 points and provides for the creation of an international peace council to oversee the work of the Palestinian Committee for the administration of the Gaza Strip. Since October 6, Israel and Hamas have held indirect talks in Egypt, mediated by Egypt, the United States, and Qatar. On October 9, let me remind you, Trump announced an agreement for February 1. On October, let me remind you, Trump announced an agreement for February. October. Let me remind you, Trump announced an agreement in October. Let me remind you, Trump announced an agreement for Israel stated that it will not agree to end the war until it is sure that Hamas no longer poses a threat and has no involvement in governing the Gaza Strip. Nevertheless, the strengthening of a United States coordinated bloc of countries opposing any continuation of the war will likely make it more difficult for Israel to resume hostilities in the first place. On the other hand, this summit in Egypt could start a broader movement toward normalizing relations with Israel in the region. Some participants Egypt normalization of relations with Israel in the region. On the part of the summit in Egypt, normalization of relations with Israel in the region. I'll leave it at that for now. These are the main news stories at this moment. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.